And joining me now from Montreal is Rabbi Saul Emanuel of the Jewish Community Council of Montreal. Welcome to the CJN Daily, Rabbi.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be with you and great to meet you.
Well, likewise, I want to start with the immediate story. We are talking because there is a charge, an arrest has been made of a former Montreal rabbi, very distinguished rabbi, for sexual assault, molestation, and sexual crimes against minors dating back 25 years ago. We can't say the victim's complainant's name, but the arrest was made in Ottawa. The arrest was made in Toronto at the airport just around Pesach time. We have all the files. There's a ban on publication, as I said. First of all, was the Jewish Community Council aware of this Rabbi Mund's legal charges?
No, we were not aware of these legal charges, not at all.
And what, if any, in the past 25, 30 years more, has the JCC done in connection with Rabbi Mund and complaints about improper behavior while he was living in Montreal?
So I've only been in Montreal 23 years, but I do remember when the original claims came up that were verified, and we had a whole gamut of rabbis across Montreal that were involved in the situation. We met frequently at that particular time. He was removed from his position. The rabbis of the Jewish Community Council were fully engaged in the issue to ensure that he was removed quickly and not continue to be involved in any congregation. And at that time, he then moved to Israel. And that was our involvement. But certainly the rabbis in unity all stood up against anything that was being claimed and ensured that it was immediately ceased, that he could no longer be practicing as a rabbi of a congregation.
Now, what kind of complaints were it mostly against children, students, adults? What did you hear?
The complaints at that time, I think, were in his relationship to women more than what we were hearing otherwise. But this goes back a very, very long time, and I don't recollect everything that happened. It's a tremendously long time ago. But whatever complaints we had, as I said, were followed up immediately and promptly. And of course, it was in times where it wasn't always pleasant. You know, these things are not always brought up publicly, but it became a public event, unfortunately. And we had to act, and we acted forthrightly and took the right action.
When you said public event, what does that mean?
Well, obviously everyone was talking about it, just like everyone talks about anything else that happens in the public view. And today more so with social media and everything that happens. In that time, it was a little bit more primitive than it was now, but certainly it was a talking point, which obviously is not pleasant, not good for the people, not good for the victims, not good for anybody. And but we were dissatisfied to hear the claims, but certainly we acted, as I said, immediately and promptly to address the issue.
And was there like an actual hearing or hearings with witnesses? How does that work? I'm familiar with the process. And has that changed since then to now?
Well, you know, the Torah says clearly that one is supposed, if one has a claim, if someone comes to us with a claim, we can't just believe the person coming with the claim. You have to give the other party a chance to answer. So you always have to hear the claimant and you have to hear the defendant, just like a judge in any civil court. Same thing. You can't have one person standing before the judge. The judge has to have the defendant and the victim, wherever it is. So we obviously gave an opportunity, and we do this often. If somebody has a claim, we give an opportunity to the person to defend themselves. Sometimes they appear, sometimes they don't appear. And whatever the case is, the rabbis act within the realm of halakha, of the Jewish law, and they give an opportunity. And if the person doesn't appear, they have to continue doing what they can with or without the person. In this particular case, obviously, if I remember correctly, the rabbi was spoken to and the rabbis addressed their concerns thereafter.
So he didn't appear, or he did? Was there like a formal?
At that particular time, and again, I'm saying this totally from memory because it's a long, long time ago. I don't believe he did appear. Some conversations took place, messages were sent. I don't believe he did appear, but with what the rabbis had heard, we had to act quickly to take care of the issue and make sure that it was eradicated immediately.
How many victims did you deal with, or how many complaints?
I don't remember the number of complaints exactly, but obviously it was serious enough that action had to be taken.
Why not go to the police?
Even one person
Yeah,
is
yeah.
one too many. One person is one too many. So even if you have one complaint, that would be sufficient for anybody to act if it's a complaint that's verified and confirmed.
Right, but this was so serious that, if I'm not mistaken, the rabbi said, you have to leave the city and move to Israel because you can't be with us anymore. Go
No,
away.
rabbis do
We
not do that.
suggest you leave town. Is what
No,
I heard. No?
we don't do that. That's an old problem, and I've attended conferences regarding that. All that we're doing, if anybody does that, all they're doing is transferring the problem to another city, and that's not what happened. We made it very clear that he can no longer be practicing. He then took the decision to move to Israel.
Did he express remorse? Did he admit it?
We
Do we
never
know?
engaged. We never engaged at that time. We never engaged. So it was unfortunately not something that happened.
Mhm. And what about the victims then? Was there any compensation, financial help for psychology, or mental health counseling? What's done in those cases, or is
In
that
these
from them?
cases, right? In these cases, we always recommend to send victims to. They should go for help. Obviously, they need to get help. They need to get support, moral support. And certainly in those particular cases, anybody who would have come, the rabbis would have recommended that they get help and go to the professional people who handle that.
But you don't cover that. There's no fund for that.
We are totally not involved in funding of social work. That is something that's taken on by other great organizations in our city who help out tremendously.
Would you be able to say how many sexual abuse cases of children and since those days that you've had, or maybe if not the total number, how many you have a year in Montreal? Ballpark?
Listen, many people don't come forward. Many people don't come forward. Of the cases that do come forward, it's few and far between, and it's very difficult to put a number to it. Sometimes you have a case that somebody phones up that something happened. When you try and verify it, the victim doesn't want to come forward. He doesn't report. So it's very difficult to put a number to such a question. But like I said, every case that is brought forward, if it does, God forbid, we certainly have to address it right away.
Why not go to the police in those days? Why keep it within the community, within the Beit Din?
You're making an assumption that we don't recommend police.
No, I'm saying back then. Let's talk
Back
now in a minute, but let's go
no,
back.
the
to that
policy,
case,
the
the Mund
policy,
case.
the policy has always been that if there's a victim that has been assaulted or in any type, way or fashion, whatever, that it has to be reported. Certainly has to be reported. We do not cover things up, and certainly a person should go and report if something has happened. That's the law. That's the law. They have a right, and they should go and report if there's something that happened.
So let's flash forward to today. There has been a petition and I guess a pledge. It was in Mishpacha magazine recently in the Passover issue. Several hundred rabbis from around the world signed. I mean, maybe you're familiar with this, to urge people to go to the police and not just to the community. I don't know if you've seen that.
I certainly did, but that's not something that's new. That's
Right.
something that's we have been purporting that for a long time. So it's not something that's new. Maybe it's just a reminder for people. But the fact of the matter is that when you have a case of this nature that happens, we automatically tell the person that you have to do what you have to do in terms of the law and report to have this stopped immediately.
Okay. So when I called you, or I heard about, tried to reach out to you about this latest case dating back 25 years, what was the JCC Community Council's reaction to this? It's an old case with a famous former resident. How was it? What was the impact hearing about this?
You're talking about now? Well, as I said, I was traveling. I did not hear much about the case currently. I had heard, like you reported, that he had arrived and had been arrested. I haven't read any articles about it, unfortunately. Normally I am on Quran with what's happening. But
nobody's reported it. I was waiting for you. And now
right.
I'm going to report it.
Right. So the fact of the matter is that, if something has happened and if the authorities feel that they have to investigate and verify and do what they have to do, so be it. The person has to face the music.
Mm-hmm. And, let's talk about now what the procedure is. You said in the old days, it was a little different. Now everybody's
No, I
encouraged.
did not say that. No, I didn't say
No,
that. I want to clarify. There
no,
was no
because
old
you
days
said
and
it
no
was
new
less
days.
informal. There was no social media so what I'm
No, so
talking.
I said these cases were not so all over the place like they are now. But what I'm saying is, I did not say anything about not reporting in the old days. The same responsibility that a person had in the old days is the same responsibility that exists now. So we have to make sure that this does not, that when something is happening, God forbid, is addressed and reported and taken care of right away. That's how it always has been, and that's the policy that exists.
But is it because for psychologists and teachers, and sometimes there's a duty to report, right, to the police, even if there's confidentiality, patient confidentiality, right? But is there that same duty for rabbis to go to the police? What's at play here?
The law states that any person in a position of authority, any person who's an assistant, a chaplain, a rabbi, a social worker, like you just said, if they would hear something that would be of a nature that is a threat to the individual, that's been happening, so that has to be handled according to the law, 100%.
So that may mean the rabbis would call the police.
The rabbis, well, the first thing they would do is they would verify,
Right.
which is happening quite often. They have to verify what the fact is. Sometimes you get somebody who calls up and says something about somebody else. We just had it actually in the community where somebody was calling around saying many things, but it was a personal vendetta that he had, spreading bad rumors about an individual or a person in authority, which was totally untrue. So no one is here to kill and damage somebody's life. So obviously we look, every case has to be handled on its individual merit, and if a person's coming forward and it's verified, this is what happened, they give an opportunity, they got to find out more information right away. Everybody acts according to the law and does what they have to do. And if they have to report, they'll report. And the first thing they do is they tell the victim, did you report? Did you go report? You should go and bring this before the authorities in order to make a claim and do what you have to do.
What role do you feel that the council, the rabbis have to play in modern, 2022, when we have the Me Too movement and it's much more known in secular society that sexual assault should be reported? Do you feel there's a role for the rabbis here in some form? In other words, do they need to bypass you and go straight, or you still have a role to play? See, if you understand what I mean.
I understand exactly what you mean. Listen, people have to go where they feel comfortable. A person goes to a social worker, a person goes to a teacher, a person goes to an advisor, a person goes to a rabbi, a person goes to a friend who they feel comfortable with. So the rabbis don't tell people to come to them. People are coming to them for help or guidance, what they should do. So the role that we play is a role where the person wants us to play that role. So whatever the case happened 23 years ago, 20 years ago, the Me Too movement that's putting up front, that is really of no consequence, because the individual case that a person is having, he looks to where he's going to get the support and the help and the assistance that he's going to find in order to be able to address the issue.
Right. Okay. So there's no special something halachic or I don't know, Jewishy that will help victims that your organization can do as they process what to do next. Whereas going straight to the police, there is that Tom is missing. Do you know what I mean by that? So I was just trying to say what role.
The person who, before they come here, wanted to go to the police, he could have gone to the police. So the question is, why didn't he go to the police right away? Correct. So obviously there's something in between where they're coming to find out or ask, or there's a link in the chain that's missing. Something obviously is happening that he or she have not gone to the police yet. But as I say, the person is looking for guidance, for help. So they're coming to ask for it. Perhaps because they feel part of the community, they feel more comfortable coming to a rabbi first, getting some guidance, community-wise, community responsibility-wise. But at the end of the day, if somebody has an incident and they are a victim of abuse, they must report.
Have you heard more people, I guess you don't know, maybe people don't know yet, maybe it's too early, we'll have to talk about it after the story comes out, people will be coming forward saying, yes, I had this, because on I think it's Za'aka's website on Facebook, when this was reported, people were saying, yes, me too, yes, me too. Everybody who hasn't really heard, but those who did said, yeah, it happened to me. Are you seeing people coming forward yet or not yet?
We have not heard of anybody else. No, we have not heard anything, not at all.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to mention that I didn't bring up?
No, I think we covered everything. I think it's important to know, number one, that if somebody has been abused, like I'm saying it again, it's important to know, report immediately, file a complaint, go to the police. If you're a victim of abuse in any way, shape or form whatsoever, you must do what you have to do in terms of the law. It's your right. You should do it. You're protecting others to make sure that this has been removed. To the authorities.